Well, on AM Talk today, well, just as if to mark the day itself, we have a strong personality in our midst, somebody who is always come, many of us have always admired, especially with the way he conducts his manners when being in mainstream politics, because he has other facets as far as his life is concerned. A former member of parliament for New Joburg North constituency, and also a former foreign affairs minister, and a former minister for the interior, and also minister for water resources, works and housing in the Kufuor administration. And we have Hackman also Ajimani in the studio. Thanks for joining me, sir.
Thank you, sir.
It's great to have you.
Good morning.
And how do you feel about our Republic Day, 55 years on?
Well, we had to change our system of governance from being hooked onto the, if you like, the Commonwealth and become a republic. It was fashionable in those days to call yourself a president, and the prime minister was not really the thing. So I suppose the parliament at that time was convinced to change the constitution and our modus of governance to that of republic. Personally, I've always been an admirer of the Westminster type of governance. In other words, you have a prime minister who is part of parliament. The whole system then is very collegial and gives a lot of opportunities for interaction, and then all these so-called winner takes all, what have you, and the rest is reduced to some extent. That's why I've always wanted that sort of system, even for Ghana. As I sit here now, even when I was foreign minister, I did say maybe it was about time we took a look at this. Here we are with the president, so much powers that sometimes it's frightening. And I believe that, but that was, at that time, it was fashionable to call yourself president. So President Nkrumah then wanted to be called president. So we changed the whole system of governance. Some people would argue that there was need to do that, but I would also respectfully argue that if we had a prime ministerial system, I mean, you have it in UK, you have it in Canada, Australia, Singapore, Malaysia, name it. And they have all done very well. So that system of governance cannot be said to have any drawbacks as far as the governance and the welfare of the people is concerned. Basically, a government exists, a party exists to work for the improved well-being of its people. And I don't think that there's a major disadvantage in having a prime ministerial sort of system, the Westminster type, as opposed to the presidential system. I remember asking Zenes Malawi, the former president of Malawi. He was all-powerful. He's won the war and everything. He was powerful, like a president. So I said, when I was foreign minister, I said, sir, why do you call yourself a prime minister and not a president? He said, I think I am setting the stage for people yet to follow. And I don't want to take all the powers. I want to call myself prime minister. It's more collegial, and we had quite a chat on it. And I'm of the same opinion. But here we are. We've always had president in most of the African countries, and that's how we go. So.
Well, I remember I covered your vetting in Parliament before you became a minister in the early part of the Kufuor administration. And on your CV was the fact that you had worked for the UN systems adequately.
That is correct.
Okay. And especially with the sector in which you worked, agriculture, and the way we have to revolutionize the way we undertake the whole sector in itself. It's a far cry from what really is existing in our country today. Really, the numbers have not been good over the last couple of years.
Well, it is a sad comment, really, to see the state of our agriculture right now. I am an agriculturist by profession, and I was with the Food and Agriculture Organization and rose to become the chief of the Regional Bureau for Africa. So I was sort of in charge of the whole of Africa, and I saw how people were making progress in the agricultural development. We did try in Ghana to assist. But I believe that agriculture, because the majority of our people are in the rural areas and they are in agriculture, this is where we must put our emphasis, really. And you need people who have experience elsewhere, who are tried and tested. Agriculture, being a means of, it's not a matry makwe situation, as the Ghanaians say. It's not matry makwe. No, you have to be committed, dedicated, and know precisely what you are doing. But unfortunately, also sometimes, I wouldn't put it too much to the ministers, the heads of those particular institutions. But again, the system of governance in this country, where the Minister of Finance is all powerful and he decides what you do and what you don't do in a way. And having have my formative years in the United Nations, I tend to disagree rather vehemently with that kind of situation. There, we have a totality of a budget. You are a director, and when there's a shortfall in the receipts of funding, then you are told everybody cut 20%. And you, as the person in charge of the sector, decide where you cut. But here we have in Ghana and some African countries where the Minister of Finance decides where you as minister must put this money or that money, and that is not governance. That is not. If I have the responsibility and I owe it to the people of Ghana and to my president to deliver, then for Christ's sake, give me the resources to do it, and not the resources at the expense of my colleague. And especially if you don't get on with that particular colleague, you are in trouble. So agriculture has suffered a little bit, not because of that particular situation, but also because I believe that we have failed to put in place people who understand the very act of developing mass development. You know, Dr. Safwadu of blessed memory, very young man, made a Minister of Agriculture. He made quite an impact, even in the 27 months that he was minister. But here you go, 6 months you are changed, 1 year you are changed, 3 years you are changed. That's no governance.
Well, we do understand personalities as far as the connection to leadership is important. But if we have a policy direction, it doesn't matter who is in charge. The policy direction becomes what alternatively should be the order of the day.
I'm sorry, sir. I beg to disagree with you, because whoever is leadership is everything. And Africa's difficulty is leadership. And so when you go into that particular sector and you are a leader with a vision, yes, the policy is being crafted by the party through its manifesto, through the government, but how you do it, I mean, at the expense of sounding immodest. If you ask me, there were 5 ministers, for example, before me in our administration in Wexenhausen. I got there, I said, water is important, so let's put water in the configuration of the ministry, so I call it water resources, Wexenhausen. I introduced water resources. I asked President Kufuor, he agreed, the cabinet agreed, we changed the name. So emphasis on water. Water is everything. You know, water, clean water is life. Then also there was housing. So I said, well, but we haven't produced one single unit of housing. And so I asked him, without any loan, anything, with the little resource we got from HIPIC, before I left, I was there only for about 2 years, and started in 18 months, we were able to put up almost 5,000 units. And some of them were even being painted when I was leaving. And I believe that it's because of my enthusiasm and the people that I had with me, around me, to work towards producing what I call affordable housing. And in those days, we could have delivered 2-bedroom flats in a sort of a semi-gated property, residential area, for everything for less than $16,000, you see. And now they are talking of about $60,000, $70,000. Multiply that by 4.5, you know where you are.
And you know, the ordinary individual who purchase
would you call that affordable? So what I'm saying that I did a whole lot of innovative activities there that I believe that should have borne fruit. But unfortunately, the whole project was sort of went into a limbo when I left, and so for that matter, I didn't. So I believe that despite the fact that the policy direction, everything is there, the leadership is very important. Absolutely, absolutely.
We've had a checkered history as far as our path to democracy has been concerned. Well, since 1992, though, we've been very consistent with that. Well, would you say that coming from the revolution and entering the Fourth Republic as a country and as the people and as a ruling class, we had a mindset as to what really we wanted to do with the crop of leaders, the elites, the ruling class, etc., the type of people we wanted in the mix, so to speak?
So you haven't really made a statement.
I have. As a people, would you say we had an agenda as to the type of people we wanted to lead us, looking at all that has happened and has transpired in the Fourth Republic as far as leadership in our country is concerned?
Well, I believe that there's need for us to have a breed of young people, senior people who have the experience, who pass on to the younger people, inspire them, and let them lead. I think that the way we have conducted our politics these days is becoming more and more even money-oriented. And the people who are capable of delivering the goods sometimes don't get there. And so I believe that there's need to eventually rethink the whole system and how people are appointed. I mean, I was a member of the parliamentary vetting committee for about, 8 years or 12 years. I'm not too sure what it was. I think minimum 8 years, but possibly 12 years. Somebody is being vetted for agriculture, or they say for health. You come there, everybody asks two questions, and it's finished. You go, no. I believe that, yes, at the 2-3 days of grilling, whether you understand your vision for that particular place. And then you get there sometimes with this government, before you could even step into the place, you are reshuffled. I mean, the fact that you can be, you, Mr. Walker, would be a good foreign affairs minister would not necessarily make you a very good minister of agriculture or health. It doesn't at all. You may understand the mechanics of foreign policy and what have you and the rest, but you may be very not too good at health or agriculture or something like that. So I believe that, for example, first, once you have been grilled, tested, and whoever is sitting in the chair of the appointment committee allows that. I mean, I remember in the U.S. one particular secretary was in there for 3 weeks. And so you really know. So once you know that and they get convinced that you can do the job, then they should give you up the 4 years to do the job and not be moved. In my own government, sometimes there are people who did about 5-6 ministries in 8 years or something like that. And I don't think
at least you did about 3, so
yes, I did.
Yeah, so that should be limiting enough for you to contribute meaningfully to particular endeavors.
Before you have found your feet, then you are out, Mr. Walker. For example, when I went to the Ministry of Interior, I had all manner of agenda. I wanted to make the police force very efficient, give them area capability to move.
You had all that dream?
I know that I wrote cabinet memo. It was approved in cabinet. Because you see, if something is happening, say in my holy village, and they have to come from Accra, by the time they drive there, whatever mayhem is happening would have happened. But you have to have area mobility. I also asked for marine police, which is now has been done by this government. And all these things, they were approved in principle, and the Air Force and the military said, why do you want area mobility? I said, you Air Force soldiers stay in the background. The police, the policemen, the fire service, they are the ones in front. They did the same prison reforms too. But before you can really settle down and get this doing and get the mobilized funds, you are moved. Okay.
As we conclude our discussions on the subject of leadership, especially in this era of the Fourth Republic, is the continuous springing up, especially in the public discourse, of how we need to do the appointment or write-up of people that we need to put together in government, especially when we know that a certain generation is passing and we need the next. and then we may do appointments of young people who perhaps may not have gone through life as you have served in various capacities, etc. Some of them perhaps straight from university, don't have even a second degree yet, would be ministers and be acquiring one, etc. Does that pose a challenge to how effectively they can contribute to their offices?
It does. Nothing can, replace experience. You must learn at the feet of the masters, quote and unquote. Learn, and then in the fullness of time, take over. But if you are plucked from university after making a lot of noise about revolution and whatever and the rest, and you are put in there, you don't know your left from the right. And believe you me, the public servants who have been there for years will take you on their little finger and move you around.
Even as a minister of state?
Oh yes, I remember when
You're supposed to be occupying a grandiose position with a lot of aura.
When I got to the ministry, let me tell you, it's no secret, I was told that, all the mail will go to the chief director and they will sort it out and bring yours to you. I said, but who is the head of this ministry? In the UN, everything comes to me. And I decide who sees that and who takes that and who that. I had that background of running the whole of Africa.
So that experience was there?
Yes, and I knew how to do it. And I called them, I said, I'm sorry, everything comes to me. So that if they want to hide something from you as minister, they will hide it from you. Let everything come to me. And I would work sometime to about 2 a.m. sitting down to make sure that I distribute, and then I minute on it. And then my secretary keeps what I call log and a chrono. And then so that if after 1 week I don't have result, I call back what happened to my memo. I have written and I have copies of my instructions as to how to do. Then I take full responsibility as a leader for that particular thing. And whether you get, it's very difficult. See, people don't appreciate the fact that the public servants have enormous power. And if you don't know your way around, before you settle down, they would have unsettled you. If you bring me a water project and tell me it's about $250 million, what technical knowledge do I have? But if you give me enough time, I would ask people, I will find out whether this is what it is. And there were instances where people had already, padded up the cost of projects, really.
That lack of experience, how does that ineffectively contribute to inefficient implementation of policies? Scenarios where you take decisions at cabinet level, the president as the head of government would expect things to be implemented adequately.
Yes, you come and you also pass it on to your technical people and to your administrators. So if you don't have the wherewithal and the experience of leadership, and if you don't command some level of respect, you see, leadership and what goes with it is earned, it's not imposed. You must seek to be a servant leader, but at the same time strong enough to carry on the vision of your party, the remit that has been given to you by your president. And I think that to do that, then you need to make sure that you have your hands on the ball. And that's what I'm trying to refer to in this particular instance, really. And issues come right now, for example, a whole lot of things in the press as to whether, I'm not a lawyer, but whether the Supreme Court judges were well appointed or not appointed. For example, if the president says there are 3 vacancies on the Supreme Court, so I need 3 to fill 3, I think that it is wrong for anybody, and I stand corrected. I hope I'm not indicted for not being a lawyer and speaking. Then send 3, because the Constitution says that you, either the Chief Justice or the Judicial Council, you are the one who know what it takes to become a Supreme Court judge. So if you are told, give us, there are 3 vacancies, give me 3. But if you give me 5 or 6, then it means I'm at liberty to choose who I want to choose. But then, do I have what it takes to make sure? Then I'll quite obviously pick somebody that I have sympathies with. But I think it's about time we sort of regulated our institutions to the extent that they are able to do it properly. And when it's done elsewhere, in UK and elsewhere, in Singapore, hardly anybody has any qualms about it. If you've done and gone through the process rigorously and you've accepted 3, give the 3 to the president to appoint. Don't give him 5, and don't give him a leeway. And that is where you have strong institutions who are then helping to carry the ship of state forward.
Well, you have been
that was just an example.
Oh, yeah. So you have been making a lot of, once in a while, press interviews talk about your experience and things more lately. And it's good that you're here too. But just yesterday or so, or 2 days ago, we had the formal swearing into office of the newly appointed chairperson for the Electoral Commission.
Yes.
Yeah. There's all the talk about whether we should have gone through the right whether we've gone through the right processes or perhaps even interpreted the regulation that tends to give the mandate to the president to do the appointment. We even have a case in court, we're told, etc.
Mr. Walker, it's unfortunate that such a sensitive position, when someone is appointed, should be the subject matter of disagreement between various factions and whatever and the rest. I think we should have been guided by the decision to have a thorough examination of the whole issue. As we grow our democracy, issues come up where you must seek consensus, so that if the referee pronounced that Mr. Walker is the winner, Mr. Walker is undisputed.
And by consensus, this should be one of them?
Exactly. So that even if the Constitution gives an individual the power to do that, maybe you would like to then consult widely. Now, even in the paper, is saying that apparently the advice of the Council of State was somebody else, you see. And all this is not healthy. Eventually, yes, that person will be sworn in because this is what has been done. But the fact that certain things have been done in the past, do that make them right? As you develop, it's an evolutionary process. So as you do this, then you begin to want to change few things, and then that's where you earn your place in history. You know, like if you take some of the American presidents, they were supposed to be from very well-to-do families and what have you. But if you take Roosevelt, he was the one who pulled the people from the quagmire of poverty and brought them up. And so, therefore, over a period of time, issues come up, and then the way you resolve it is where it shows your greatness and give you your place in history. But not because this is what I'm supposed to do, so I've done that. And if it doesn't bring peace, what happens? But the charge to any government is to make sure that they improve the total physical, and moral, spiritual well-being of all its people. And sometimes it's a bit difficult when we go by so-called what is there or precedent. And
do you think the current scenario as we have it could pose a challenge to the trust and creates a very serene atmosphere for the stakeholders within the political process in itself to have a lot more trust for each other, for the institution, and for the processes in which they're going to engage in? We're talking about the elections, etc.
If the institutions are well managed, if they have honest people, and sometimes some of these public servants even become, if they're a Catholic, will be more Catholic than the Pope. They think that, oh, this is a particular party in power, so we have to do things this way. No, I think that the people who are in charge of these institutions should live like Caesar's wife above reproach and do what is right for this nation, for the sake of this nation. You've been given a responsibility, you must do it well. Elections have been the cause of mayhem in various countries, and we are developing. And so therefore, if you give the leadership to somebody who there's broad consensus, you know, that yes, he can do it and that is what it is, I would have expected that, honestly, personally, I would have expected that people talk about consultation, whether you have the prerogative, yes, but can't I carry you along with me? If can't I convince you, Mr. Walker, let's walk to this side. You may decide not to work, but if I come to speak to you now, you may work with me. So by the time we get there, we are one. And there's one nation. Then we develop the nation. Then our people have peace of mind. It cannot be the case that you have somebody where already there's a little bit of controversy about it. It's not helpful.
Okay. Be it as is may, and the appointment has been made based on whatever interpretation whoever is supposed to appoint has made to the regulation or the law that backs him or her to do that. Don't you think we're getting all these arguments because for the stakeholders in the political space there's no sense of unity?
Well, that's what unity. Yes, I mean unity only in as much as the developmental process of this country is concerned. That might be a meeting of minds. I've always advocated, for example, for the Korean type of system where you have an institute which fashions out the policy, the way to go. So its management and its push going forward is a matter of, small adjustment here and there. Yes, there'll be consensus of that. Otherwise, we are two different parties, or 3, 4, 5 different parties. And for that matter, we can have, but in a situation where winner takes all, and you make sure, sometimes somebody may belong to a different party, but I'm not saying bring him, especially the technocrats, if they become neutral. And the British civil service is an example of the Singaporean or the Malaysian experience, or even the Australian, Canada that I have seen myself. Even US, they have the presidential system, that those there, so you change the top, and then those who are much, like in the US, for example, or UK, most of the ambassadors are career diplomats, and they know where their remit is, that theirs is to push the interest of United Kingdom, with the slight changes here and there by the government in power, and the slight deviations from the norm. But otherwise, I mean, this is what we did.
Now the appointment has been made for the two main political parties, one in power, the NDC, and the MPP wanting to get into government in opposition. Could that be a point of contention or disagreement if preemptively things are not done well? We're expected to have reforms, etc.
Mr. Walker, the issue is now in front of the Supreme Court, so for a little interpretation. But whatever it is, the individual now we have that individual should have that ability and mentality to show that I'll do what is right all the time. And if you do that, you earn the confidence of the people. Two people are playing, two games are playing, somebody says, well, I have a difficulty here. You look at it objectively, say whether it can be resolved or not. But not because I have decided the way it is. For example, I am no Afro-Jan is my good friend, but I was no fan of him because he's talked to issues which were not necessary. And most of the difficulties came from there. So he can be lauded and everything to the moon. I think that he could have done a lot more. So what you bring to the table is very important. So I am hoping that if this lady stays there, it will be fair play and justice will be her watchwords, and then we can move on. Because for now, she's there anyway. De jure. He's there, she's been sworn in. So let her make a difference. Let her look at the challenges of the electoral system and see what is it that I can do, at least for my country, not for any individual. Governments come, governments go. And so therefore, I believe sincerely that I am hoping that the lady would rise to the occasion, eschew all partisanship, and do what is right for this nation. This is what I am hoping. And that's important because the personality that you appoint also informs the direction and how even the staff below behave.
That's a huge statement. Anyway, but one of the main thrusts of the responsibilities of the new person should be the issue of other reforms. And the MPP, for example, has always been advocating that we need a new register.
Yes.
That they believe that the old is bloated.
Yes.
Even look at what the numbers are and the demographics, etc.
Yes.
it just doesn't synchronize with the figures of the national population. Yes. You still advocate that?
Yes, you see, I absolutely, because we are not in another planet, and statistics speak volumes, and we've shown that this, if the register is bloated, for the peace of everybody's mind, let's say, how much does it take? There are donors who are prepared to assist us, so let us conduct another registration exercise, which we can do very effectively. This last one, for example, the people who handle these electronic devices and what have you from Israel, we had absolutely no confidence in them. Nobody did, but we went along with it. The time has come as we move to improve on it, and let us start with a new register which will be credible and would conform to the norms of demographic configurations, if you like, but not the ones which defy all statistical interpretation of demography in whatever you have. So therefore, for example, it doesn't mean that he's pandering to NPP or to anything, but look at it. Yes, this is the evidence produced. Yes, and is this the way to go? And then if that's the way to go, then you make your mark in history. Because if the people like you, whether it's a trim of fat and whatever and the rest, you will still get those that the people want to rule them. And I don't believe that sticking, just like Afrojan did sometimes, said, you can go to court, you can go to court. For me, Afrojan is my good friend, as I said, but I would never appreciate him of the way he was leading us, because this is people competing. So you have to be, very careful. All we have is this country, and one of them said that silver and gold have I none. All I have are my dreams. Tread softly, because you tread on my dreams. You should have treaded softly and make sure that as he went, he took the people along with him, but not because I have the power, I park his advisory, this is advisory, so I do what I like. And this issue of somebody staying there till 70, absolutely scandalous.
The British would say hogwash.
Whatever word you want to use, because the Constitution was written for somebody who was then about to exit from military to all these kind of things. I mean, a two-term session.
Or 5 years.
Yes, 5 years will be fine, adequate. But if you are there, I don't know how old this lady is, but she's going to be there
she's not 50.
To over 20 years she's going to stay there. I mean, come on.
That gives a sense of always making sure that the right thing is done, right?
Yeah, but you see,
it doesn't matter, no matter what you think. Once I do the right thing, you can't.
I think that there should be a term limit. Look at Nigeria, Jega, the good work he did. You, the vice chancellors, to be the return officer. What has he done? He's told them, I am leaving. He's done it peace. His name is etched in gold in the history of Nigeria. Then he leaves. Another one comes, and he also does it, and it's gold. So I think that basically what we have to do is again to look at that, especially in view of the fact that there are moves to amend the Constitution. For example, certain things must be done from experience, and normally, if you Constitutional Reform Commission has brought a report, it's not a white paper that you produce on it. This is simple, basic governance issue. You don't produce a white paper. You get people to talk about it, and then the issues that go. A white paper means this is my position as a government. So then the opposition says, oh, this is my position as the opposition. It doesn't help. So that we.
Well, that's the way we've done it since 1993.
Well, the fact that we've always done that in the past, and that
doesn't make it right.
Exactly, in the modern situation makes it. So we should have looked at it, because see, even to make a simple change of non-entrenched clauses, you need 2/3 majority. They don't have it. So we are not changing. It's a stalemate. But if we had all sat down and discussed, this is one issue we can deal with, this is one issue we can deal with, and then...
Do you think, as a country, in the way we conduct our politics and leadership, consensus building has not been something we've taken up? And so that has also eaten up the way we need to arrive at certain decisions or conclusions to certain?
You are right. I mean, we have to try. See, if you belong to NDC and I'm seeing with you having a deal, oh, he sold out, or you have sold out. This is not how it should be. No,
because even within the parties, it's a...
Exactly, and within the party, there are also blocks and things like that. Even within the parties, you know. And if you are saying, oh, this man has now moved from this camp to that camp, and this one is a spy watching man. No, we should grow up as a people, discuss issues when there are views that one wants to pass on to a ruling government. One should be able to do that. So consensus building then becomes an issue. It's an art, and it's part of the leadership process. A leader takes the people along, having convinced himself that what he's gotten is what they should do. So this is what it is.
What issues do you think will dominate the electioneering in 2016?
Well, they are evolving.
Because we've had issues of energy, and this also permeates the subject of fuel pricing and things like that.
Well, they are evolving over time. We have all these doomsday difficulties, and we have a whole lot of difficulties. NPP has been advocating for free education. Now it's come in another guise and things like that. But at the end of the day, what we have to do is look at the governance process and whether a particular party has done well now. 8 years here, 8 years there. Forget about the 8 years of the immediate post PNDC era. Compare, contrast, and see which one can do. But issues that will come out certainly will be the energy, certainly will be education, infrastructure, agriculture. The bulk of our people are in agriculture. Look, you need a very experienced person to handle agriculture. Agriculture is not a place for people who have just left school and just, you know, that. No, I am an agriculture. I feel passionately about it. And so then, you know, all these will come up, and those that are able to convince the people of Ghana that they want to do it, Mr. Walker will do it.
Okay.
But those are some...
We'll have to end our discussion now. But sure. Are you on pension? So what do you do? I know you have businesses and an office to run.
No, I don't have pension. So the interesting thing, when I left the United Nations after 20 years of service, I took my pension or my superannuation or whatever. But I'm not on pension, no. I'm not on pension at all. When you mean that I'm not paid anything, I'm not on pension.
No, I'm not. I don't mean. I mean you're just sitting home relaxing, right?
No. I'm one of the three. You know, there were three founding officers of the party: Darocha, Ajedin Boateng, and myself as national treasurer. The two of them, may they rest in peace, are gone. And my job is to work for the party and make.
So now you work for the party.
I work for the party and make sure that we can bring some peace and tranquility to our front so that we can have a united front and fight the battle which is now happening ahead. And slowly, we are finishing the internal processes, and then after that, I belong to the Council of Elders and all manner of things and people and help there with it. So I am almost full-time working for the party.
All right.
And then making sure that I bring factions together.
I know the next time we don't have to pull you into the studio. We'd rather have to come to where you are. That's what we need to do. We need to do that, though, before the year closes. And so thanks for joining us.
Well, it's my pleasure to be with you this morning, and I wish you all the best. And what I like about this, if you have a minute, is the fact that we are now diversifying. You know, there are several radio and television stations, unlike the ancient times, and you people are doing well. You have to mount a challenge to the national broadcaster and see how best we can. Okay. And you know, I wish you all the best, well, and I hope that your conditions of service are good enough so that you stay long enough to have the experience to help this.
Well, thank you very much. And we've had in the studio Hakman Owusu-Agyeman, former Member of Parliament for New Drop in North Constituency, has been with the ministries as head of those ministries, Minister Foreign Affairs, as well as the Interior, Water Resources, Works and Housing. That's foremostly important as well. And thanks for joining me, sir. And that'll be it for the show this morning as well. And thanks for your comments on our social network pages. That'll be it for the morning. Enjoy your Republic Day. We'll be here same time with you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Thank you.